Ashley. Welcome to this episode of Class is in Session. This show, exclusively on Black Enterprise, highlights the latest happenings inside HBCU classrooms, the business side of HBCU sports, public policy issues facing these historic institutions, and the overall state of education. We also like to highlight HBCU students and alum who are making major moves. And one of those recent alums, he's just graduated from HBCU Bowie State University, is with us today. Myles Frost. Myles is a multi-talented singer, actor, dancer, pianist, producer. He just graduated from Bowie State University December 21st of 2023, and he won a Tony Award for Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role in a Musical for his lead role portraying Michael Jackson in MJ the Musical on Broadway, and he's going to take the show all the way overseas to London next March. And he's also making his first big screen debut, major motion picture, portraying Trayvon Martin in Origin, a new film written and directed by Ava DuVernay. Please help me welcome Myles Frost. Myles.
How you doing? How you doing?
Super excited to chat with you. Super excited to chat with you. Man, it's a blessing to have you here with our audience on Black Enterprise. We've been excited to follow your career and your journey, but we need to start with the biggest news of all. You just earned your degree from an
I did.
HBCU, Bowie State University. Tell us how it feels to earn that degree and what is it in?
Oh, it feels so good. My degree is in music technology, which is right down my lane. I've always been a person who loves to be well rounded. I never wanted to just be an artist who is singing into the microphone. I want to know what's going on behind the booths. That's kind of what sparked, my major. Um, But wow, it really feels incredible. I mean, this stems from a promise I made my grandmother, who's 90 now, and still jazzy and still doing her
Wow.
thing. But before I, was cast in MJ the Musical on Broadway, I was at Bowie State, and when the opportunity came, presented itself. I know my grandma was a school teacher, so I was like, Grandma, I may have to drop out, and I hate using that term, but that was the reality of the situation at the time.
Mhm.
And she was like, look, I trust you and I support you, but you got to promise me that you're going to go back and finish. And I said, I promise. I promise I will do it. And as a young man, to be able to make a promise and to fulfill that promise, um, it's no other feeling like that in the world, especially to somebody that you love.
Right.
And so the fact that my grandmother was able to come to my graduation means the absolute world to me as well, amongst all the
That's a
other things and
blessing.
all the
She
other
was able to come to
successes.
your graduation.
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. And also, I imagine she also got to see you perform as MJ and MJ the Musical as
She did.
well.
She did. She sure did, and she got to see Origin as well. So it's
Oh,
it's
that's
blessings on
incredible.
me. Yes, yes, yes.
Absolutely.
I'm excited.
That's yeah, yeah. I'm excited to hear that and the fact that you kept your promise to her. And I want to talk a little bit about, what it meant to you also, keeping that word to yourself that you were able to balance an incredibly demanding career. And we're going to talk about
Mm.
how you got into that in a minute. But how did you
Yeah.
balance being a student, a Black college student, at that, as well as a full-time performing artist? How did you balance it? And how many shows did you have a week? And, mixing that with classes.
Too many. Um, so my schedule at the time when I officially re-enrolled, um, I think it was I want to say back in like early like January, February of this year, to finish out my degree and stuff like that. I was doing 7 shows a week. Um, Initially I was doing 8, but I was after I won the Tony. And I have to say this because Lena Waithe will kill me if I don't say it. She's, been a huge supporter of mine. I'm the youngest Tony Award winner in history. And she said I need to start saying that because not a lot of people know that. But, a black man, the youngest Tony Award winner in history. So, I'm very, very honored, very, very honored by that. But yeah, the balance was crazy. I mean, I was doing 7 shows a week. I was taking I think 4 classes at the time, trying to do the best that I could. And what I really learned was stress management.
Mm,
And people like throwing the word mental health around a lot, but I think mental health is kind of like is the umbrella, but then what falls under that umbrella? And for
mhm.
me, a big part that I know I always struggle with, and it runs in my family because we do so much, is stress management and
Yeah.
dealing with that stress and dealing with the toll that that stress takes on your body because we love to work so much. It runs in my I see my mom working all the time, all my life. That's all she do, and that's what she loves to do. But I've never seen her take the time to de-stress. It's not
Mm,
something that we're raised to learn how to do. It's not something that we're taught. We're taught to work, but we're not taught how to rest.
yeah.
And that's something I had to, I had to teach myself. I had to teach myself how to rest. And in those moments of rest, what can I get done? How can I still be productive and have a complete rest at the same time? So once I was able to find that balance, allotting times to do my schoolwork and recover from the show itself, because I was also working on my own music at the time as well.
Mm.
And I filmed Origin while I was doing MJ. So I was
Oh my
doing
goodness.
all of that at the same time. But also, honestly, just the grace of God
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Listen, grace has brought you this thus far, and grace is going to keep carrying you through.
Mhm.
And I was seriously, we're so
100%.
proud of you. And you're right. I like that Lena Waithe said, listen, it's okay to shine the light on yourself sometimes. The youngest
Mhm,
person to become a Tony Award winner. That's fantastic. You said best leading actor in a musical. I mean, that's remarkable.
mhm.
That's remarkable. And I think, I guess part of what I've seen a lot and I admire a lot about you is your humility. And so I guess let's talk a little bit about that. How do you define success? If you don't often tout the awards, how do you define what success means and what it looks like for you?
Um, I don't wanna misquote, but I believe that Miss Maya Angelou said this to someone else or in an interview, and she said, "Your success is not measured by what you achieve. Your success is measured by the people that you inspire and what they achieve." So, I'm measuring my success on how many people I'm able to inspire every day just doing what I love. Like I would say Michael Jackson was a successful person because of all the hearts that he touched over multitudes of generations and that have in the past and to come. He's still inspiring generation after generation after generation. And Beyonce is doing the same, and to be a part of that chain, I think is what I would quantify my success as. I know my family's gonna be taken care of. I'm gonna take care of my family, but I think being a part of something that's bigger than yourself is where true success for me comes from.
Love that. Love that. That's very powerful. Let's get right into how you even became the lead actor in this position. It sounds like maybe a few years back, 2016 or so, your mom posted a video of you dancing, doing a Michael Jackson dance at your high school talent show. You nailed it, like right. You completely rocked it out, and from what I understand, it was improvised. And you got a call. What,
Yeah.
5 years later? Is that right? And who was that call
Mhm.
from?
So that call was from my acting coach at the time, Leland Thompson. Great spirit, great spirit. We had only done 4 classes. I had signed up for like a 4-week intensive program with him. I was enrolled at Bowie State at the time, and I was like, maybe I should start taking acting lessons. And did that. I said a few months after our last class, he calls me, and this was on the morning of my sister's birthday, out of all the days.
Uh huh.
And he says, "Hey, I woke up this morning and you were on my mind." And I was like, "It's a little weird." I'm like, "Well, I ain't know you that long for you to, for me to be on your mind like that." He said, but no, this, the first thing I did was look your name up on YouTube, and the video that you just referred to is the video he, discovered and said, I have this opportunity I think you'd be great for. I just wanted to know if you can do that, but better since you're older now. So the video that, you're referring to is I did Billie Jean at a high school talent show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah. I was lying though because I hadn't done anything Michael related since I was 16 and I was 21 at this point.
Uh huh.
I was like, I'm not gonna tell you that. I don't know what blessings I'd be blocking if I said, "Oh no, I don't think I can do it," and that kind of thing. So that's my whole other thing as well is not saying no to your future self. You may not be able to do it right now, but don't take that out on your future self. Believe that you have the capability to get there. You know, and that's what I did. That was me taking my leap of faith, is kind of jumping into. I didn't think I was gonna get it, so I was like, I have nothing to lose. I'm in college. You know, I love being at Bowie, but I know I feel a higher calling for me in this moment. You know, not saying that it was greater than school because if that was the case, I wouldn't finish. I think school is very, very important. But in that moment, I felt, you just feel what you feel. You feel that blessing calling on you. And I sent in an audition that day. they said, "Hey, we'd love to invite you in for an in-person audition." And mind you, this was kind of coming out of COVID, so COVID was still very much prevalent. Um, and actually, this was in the middle of COVID, so we technically weren't supposed to be doing in-person auditions. But you can't do mic or virtual. You have to see somebody do that, which I understood. So I go out there to New York, and I have an allergic reaction the day before my audition, a really, really bad allergic reaction. I didn't get to practice any of the stuff that they taught me that day, but I had to perform it the next day. And I tell you, by the grace of God, I was able to perform it and do it. And I said, I'm going to make sure that whoever got to come after me they got a hell of a job to do, because they they got
Mhm.
to work. I'm leaving everything on this audition stage. And I'd say about a week later, had a Zoom call with the director and assistant director, Dante Keene and Christopher Wilden. And Chris said, Myles, we'd like to offer you the role of MJ.
Mm.
Oh, and this is Broadway, by the way. I didn't know it was Broadway at the time.
You did not know.
That's not I did not know.
What?
I thought I was going in for an understudy position for the UK production of Michael Jackson the Musical. That's what was told to me. So I
Ah.
was not supposed to know it was Broadway. I did not know it was Broadway until, nor did I know I was going for the lead until I was offered the role.
Really? So this whole
Yeah,
this whole process was full of surprises, right? From a
it
YouTube
was.
video from years ago to getting the call from your acting coach, who, like you said, you weren't as fresh in your acting at the time, keeping up with your
Right.
acting lessons, to being cast as the lead, and you weren't even expecting it, and on Broadway, and you won a Tony.
Yeah. And and on top of that, I had just started taking acting lessons, but also I'm self-taught in pretty much everything else. So all the dancing and stuff that I did to get the role, I did myself through my own training and studying. I mean, the day that I recorded the video to send to them, I was in the studio from 8 a.m. to about 6:30 p.m. just practicing, going over it, Billie Jean, going over Motown 25 over 100 times. I didn't even eat that day, just
Oh wow,
practicing and practicing. So
wow.
I've been truly blessed.
You have been blessed. We're excited to see it, and honestly, this is encouraging for so many students and young people to hear your story, to hear your journey. They may think that you got to where you were, that was clearly divine timing, right? That placed you where you
Oh
were,
yeah,
but you had to work hard to stay where you were, right? You talk about hours and hours of
100%.
practice, 7 or 8 shows a week. You said,
Yeah. So at first I was doing 8 shows a week. I didn't stop doing 8 shows a week until I had a little Tony leverage. But, I was doing 8 shows a week for a long time. And, I thought I was invincible, as most young people do. And I realized how important taking care of myself was when I, fractured my second metatarsal on my right foot, a week after opening night, and I was out for 4 weeks. And the hardest part about that injury was not the injury itself, but it was the kind of injury, meaning, it wasn't something that happened. It was an overuse injury. So because it was an overuse injury, it forced me to reevaluate how my approach to the show, because I can't keep doing it as at 120, 150% that I was taught to do by Rich and Tone Talawega, who they're two Samoan brothers who taught me everything I know. They danced with Michael from the history tour up until he passed away, and they
wow.
instilled in me Michael's work ethic.
Mm,
Michael's work ethic, how it differentiates from, I guess, regular people's work ethic is, you walk into a room as a performer, right? You say you walk into a rehearsal room and you're like, okay, I might be at 0 to about 10%, but by the end of this rehearsal, I'm gonna be at 100, maybe even 110%. Right? And you're like, okay, that sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty like a great work ethic, right? Michael comes in the room at 100% and says, "How high can we go?" And when you take when you put that into perspective, it makes you think like, "Oh, no," like, when Michael had his rehearsals with his people, not to go off topic, but when Michael would have his rehearsals, Michael would come into rehearsal already sweating before he got started with everybody else. That's the kind of Michael work ethic that I've adopted, that kind
mhm.
of sense of perfectionism, and that drive, that care, and you can only have that level of care when you're a part of something and you realize that you're a part of something that's way bigger than yourself. And I feel like MJ came at a time when we really, really needed it. And to be one of the front men or the front man for that, for that energy, for that love, for that light, and for the ability for people to come to a space and be able to congregate and have a great time, it meant the absolute world. It really did.
That's remarkable. And not only have you done an amazing job here on Broadway in the States, but you're taking this show on the road, going to
Yeah.
London. Tell us, what are you most excited about to again have the lead in MJ the Musical in the UK?
Mhm. The energy, the people, different cultures. There's a lot of people who were not able to come to New York and travel, to the United States to come see MJ the Musical. When I would get DMs all day long, every day, saying, "Oh my gosh, can you please come? Can you please come over here? Can you please come to this country, this country, this country?" So
Yeah.
hopefully, a lot more people who did not have access and were not able to make the trip can come to the Prince Edward in the UK and see MJ and have the experience that they wanted to have. So that's what I'm excited about. And just introducing myself to a new market as
Hmm.
well.
That's huge. And I think there's a whole you got a lot of fans, Miles, including your fans and your family at Bowie State. In fact, we've got a special
Yeah.
guest here with us, the president of Bowie State University, Dr. Aminta Breux. Welcome, Dr. Breux.
Good morning, Ashley. It's wonderful to be with you to celebrate our dear, dear bulldog. He is phenomenal. I'm so glad to be with you.
Listen, we are glad to have you. We also are so excited to highlight this Bowie State Bulldog. Tell me how you got to know Myles Frost and a little bit about seeing his success on his journey across the years.
Well, I've known Miles for a few years now since he came to Bowie State University, and he's made his mark from the very, very beginning. He is just a brilliant, brilliant student and so very talented. If you haven't seen him in MJ the Musical, and I'm speaking to everybody out there, you are really missing out because he is just super talented. An incredible artist, and it's great to see him diversifying his talent going into doing plays. And most recently, there was an announcement that came out that he is playing Trayvon Martin in Ava DuVernay's new film. And so we are just so thrilled to have him here at Bowie State University. And I've known him for a few years now, and it is wonderful to see him soar in the way that he is.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Tell us a little bit about Bowie State University, how many students you serve, and a little more about some of the music and arts programs as well that Miles is involved in.
Well, Bowie State University is the oldest historically Black college and university in the state of Maryland, founded in 1865. We sit right outside of Washington, D.C., just about 20 miles outside of D.C., close to Annapolis, 45 minutes away from Baltimore, in this idyllic, wonderful area with great academic excellence. And we're just so thrilled with our fine and performing arts program. And Myles Frost is just a wonderful exemplar of excellence. We talk about racing to excellence around here, and he is just the epitome of excellence. The fine and performing arts is continuing to thrive and grow. We've had outstanding students who have come through our fine and performing arts program. The Braxton sisters, our Bowie Bulldogs, Giovanna Depo, who starred in Fences and went on to other acclaim. And just this past year, we dedicated our theater in honor of Dionne Warwick, who was right here on the campus celebrating the fine and performing arts and helping us to raise awareness about all the excellence that we have in fine and performing arts, but throughout Bowie State University. And we're known for the fine and performing arts, but for so many other programs such as STEM fields, nursing, the social sciences, restorative justice. And so I invite everyone to visit our beautiful 300-acre campus and see what all the talk is about as we share our wonderful Myles Frost Bowie Bulldog with the rest of the nation and the world. You know, he's heading to Great Britain to star in
Wow.
MJ the musical, and we are just thrilled. We will be planning, and we are planning a trip for our students, faculty, and staff to get over there to lift him up and cheer him on, because that's what we do at an HBCU and here at Bowie State University.
That is remarkable. You are planning a trip for students that'll be sometime in 2024?
That'll be in 2024, not long after he opens in the UK in the same starring role as MJ, Michael Jackson, and MJ the musical. And so we're about at an HBCU, it's about wrapping your arms around our students, lifting them up, making sure they feel that warm, nurturing environment, that family feeling. And that's what we have here from Miles, and we have a saying around here, "Once a bulldog, always a bulldog," and bulldog for life. And so we're so thrilled. He's gonna be graduating tomorrow. And let me
Yes.
tell you, we are so thrilled to see him go across that stage. In addition to being this outstanding performer, he's an academically just excellent student. He is just wonderful to be able to go across that stage with all that he has to balance. You know, performing, practicing throughout the week, doing all these performances, but he stayed focused on getting his degree, getting his education. And so that tells you about how just a brilliant, brilliant young man he is.
Incredible. We love to hear it. And it sounds like, with all the great things that Bowie State has going on, there's a long line and legacy of success, both academically and in the arts. Wanted to talk a little bit about what has been some of the impact to your university with this exposure, given that Miles is a Tony Award winner. And I believe you mentioned a Grammy Award winner as well. Like, tell us a little bit
Yes.
about the impact to your university by having a literal superstar on your campus.
Well, it helps to raise awareness about the history and the legacy of our historic institution. It wasn't too long ago, 10 years ago, if you ask someone, what is an HBCU? They would ask, what is an HBCU? I no longer have to talk about that and say, oh, here's what it is, and here's who we are as Bowie State University, because through the awareness that Miles has created, others are discovering BSU. We've been here for over 150 years, providing excellence in education. But when you have these exemplars out there, it makes people curious. The general public is saying, oh, well, let me go find out about Bowie State University. So it has a huge impact to our institution in raising the awareness about the fine and performing arts, but excellence in academics, first and foremost, excellence in the talent that we have here, and excellence across the board in research and teaching that we have. We have amazing faculty members who have been on this journey with Miles throughout and encouraging him, pushing, prodding, whatever we have to do with our students and saying, you can do this and you will do
Yes.
this. Because getting that degree, I don't care what anyone says, getting that degree, it matters. You see some stars now thinking, after they've been out in the field for a while, saying, oh, I need to go back and get my education.
Mm.
Miles is saying, no, I'm going to get my education. And we're saying, yes, we're right there with you. And so the impact has been huge. And as Miles graduates tomorrow, think about all of those graduates who are going to be even more inspired by him as they hear his story. And I
Mhm.
have to think they're going to sit there and say to themselves, well, if he can do all that, I can do whatever. I can balance, I can make things happen because he was able to get his degree while he's performing on Broadway. He went on to perform over last summer in a play, Rent, here in the Washington, D.C. area. So he's doing all these things, but he's getting his education first. So he's inspiring this generation, and I will say he will inspire many, many future generations to come.
Love to hear it. We couldn't agree more. We also realize that Miles is definitely currently inspiring not only his current classmates and peers in the world, but he will continue to do so and all the exciting work that he has coming to him. So, special shout out to Dr. Aminta Breux, president of Bowie State University, for you, your staff, faculty, students, everyone's support in rallying around Miles as he has completed this journey to earning his degree and forever a bulldog as he goes and takes the world by storm and stages globally. So thank you so much, Dr. Bro, for sharing with us.
Thank you, Ashley. Happy holidays to you.
Yes, it was such a treat speaking with Dr. Bro about all of your success to date and the success on the horizon, and the fact that Bowie State is planning to send students, staff, and
Yes.
faculty to London to see you.
Yes, yes, yes. That is something we talked about. Bowie has supported me so this is why HBCUs are important. Um,
Yes.
from a representation standpoint, because we show up. We show up and we support, and that's what I love about being a part of a HBCU. When I say that they called and say, "Hey, we know you're on Broadway right now. We're sending some buses of students to come see you and support you." I mean, so much so to when they came to the show and I was performing, they were like, "Woo!" And he said, BSU, BSU. You know, I almost broke character because it means so much to me to have that kind of support, especially from people who look like you and are inspired by you. You know, it's a whole different feeling to have people who look like you be inspired by you, and they're your peers. You know, that meant the ultimate world to me.
Love to hear it. Glad to hear that Bowie has been there every step of the way supporting you. And listen, I think a lot of folks want to know, listen, you've won a Tony, you were nominated for a Grammy, you're about to go overseas to again be the lead in MJ the Musical in London. You're about to have a role in Ava DuVernay's film Origin. Let's just backtrack to find out, why did you choose an HBCU? Why did you choose Bowie State?
Well, I can actually here's a perfect story. I mean, I was at Belmont University, you know, which is predominantly white school and down in Nashville, Tennessee, and I think it was one a sense of family. I didn't really feel like I belonged there. You know, I met one of my closest friends there, but you know, I didn't feel welcome. You know, I didn't feel welcome, and I was like, I know where I can feel welcome. You know, I didn't know which HBCU I wanted to go to. I said, you know what? Let's see what's at home. Let's see what's at home. And when I say Bowie State Open, they welcome me with open arms and an experience that I'll never ever forget. And you know, I'm gonna continue to rep Bowie State to the day I die. You know, it was I felt home. I felt so comfortable. I was like, this is it. This is what this was supposed to feel like. You know, and I'm so glad that that I made that choice. I'm so glad, and I think I come from a with a different perspective because was able to see both best of both worlds, and say I can honestly say after going to said school and then transferring to Bowie State that was the better decision and the best decision I've ever made. I mean, Bowie State's so cool. They got a hip hop. They got what other school has hip hop as a major?
Okay. Okay.
Like it's just it just spoke to me in that way. So I'm so glad I made that choice.
I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad it was the right place at the right time for you. And even as your career
Mhm.
began to just expand, I mean, literally, you're in the stars, right? That they have continued to support you, sending students and staff to see you on
Mhm.
Broadway. Folks are getting flights and going overseas to support you, even though you've just graduated from the school. I think that's remarkable. And Dr. Breux
Thank
speaks
you.
so very highly of you, and just how and also just how down to earth you're. Like, Miles is Miles, right? And she just really respects who
Mhm.
you are, both on and off the stage. And that means a lot too. I wanted to talk a little bit more about, what you studied at Bowie State and what your original career plans were. Like, here you are on Broadway, but was that even ever a part of your plan?
Not at all. My major was audio engineering or music technology, as we call it at Bowie State, and which goes in line with what I initially wanted to do, which is I still want to do is be an artist, a
Mhm.
recording artist.
Okay.
Since I was a kid, I wanted to be bigger than Michael Jackson, and I still feel like I can do that. And hey, even if I miss, I think I'd be in pretty good shape if I'm making that the goal and have the work ethic to back it up.
I
So
agree.
with that being said, I've been working on my album. My album's done. I can finally say that I have some singles coming out next year. I'm super, super, super excited. It's a self-titled album, and this is really an opportunity for people to see who Miles is and how I was able to mix what I've learned in that work ethic and that passion and that drive from MJ and pour it into my own music with this little break that I've had between, doing Broadway and, getting ready to go to London. And people can just really just get a sense of who I am. And it's not that popcorn microwave, music that we, are so used to, because I
Hmm.
want to be the bridge between the old school and the new school because I have an old soul, but I also love what newer music has to offer as well. So finding a way to blend that and having that sense of freshness with a hint of nostalgia is literally what describes me as a person.
I
So
like
you're
that.
gonna you're gonna
Freshness
feel
with
it.
a hint of nostalgia. And how old are you, Miles?
24.
24. You know what? I love it. I love it. Brother, we are proud of you. Tell us, listen, you making your major film debut in Origin,
Yes.
a film by Ava DuVernay. Let's talk about that. Tell us about it.
Well, the Origin is a book, is a film based off the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, and it talks about the caste system. The caste system is pretty much the umbrella to a lot of umbrella terms that we know that we talk about on a regular basis. More commonly now is racism. We talk about that a lot, anti-Semitism, and all the isms that we talk about. Well, what this movie does and what Isabel did was say there's something, we're so quick, especially as Black people, we're so quick to say this is racist, right? But then you take a situation like Trayvon Martin, where the reality of the situation is when you really look at it, because I was one of those people. I said, "Oh, that's racist." He profiled this Black man, and did what he did. But this is a Latino man upholding what he thinks is, upholding the standards of a white neighborhood. And he's not white. And it's not as easy to just throw racism at that. It becomes difficult. I feel like if he was a white man, it'd be a little different. But because he was a person of color, we have to take a step back and say, maybe this is deeper than racism. It's hard. It's a hard thing to digest, but that's if we go outside of ourselves for a quick minute and say, okay, let's explore that. Like, what are we talking about? The caste system is a system in which that was developed in India, in which they were called Dalits. The people who were also called the untouchables, people who were looked down upon by their own people. And then we also touch on the Germans and the Jews and the Holocaust and things of that nature. When we look at that, we don't if I were to have two people stand in front of you, one's Jewish and one's German, and I said, do you think these people are white? You'd probably say, yeah, right. But the type of oppression that the Jews had to go through, and the type of things that they went through, it's like, that you can't put racism on it. So it's like, what do we call that? Because they're, we say they're the same race, essentially. So it's like, what do we call that? They look the same. That's the caste system. The
Hmm.
caste system is a system in which one group of people who feels like they're superior, you know, takes a lot of takes a lot of measures to make another group of people feel inferior.
Hmm.
And they do it systematically to where people just go, well, that's just the way it is. And what Ava does is she takes all of the victims, that have been affected by this caste system. She shows it from their perspective, which I think is the most incredible thing that
Wow.
Ava has done with this movie. So we see Trayvon for who he is. This is why I didn't read the book. I didn't do any research on what the cast was prior to filming and during filming, because I wanted to just focus on embodying the spirit of a 17-year-old boy. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to embody that spirit and show the lightness. I felt like if I did all this research on cast and all that, I would feel you would see the weight of that while I'm trying to portray a young, bright young man by the name of Trayvon Martin. It wouldn't seem authentic. So I say, you know what? Let me just, because Trayvon Martin is me. Let me just be myself. Let me tap into who I think Trayvon was, and that was hard. I think it was harder to tap into that than it was to do MJ, because you have, and I'll leave it with at this, I had a moment, where, we do the scene, that's a little hard for people to watch. And what as an actor, what I was tasked with was coming up with Trayvon's final thoughts. Like as a 17-year-old, when you're pinned to the ground and you know that these are your last moments and you're not gonna survive this, what do you think about? What crosses your mind as a 17-year-old who hasn't lived that much life? What do you think about? That was what I was tasked with providing for not only Trayvon, but the audience as well. So it was a
Wow.
lot.
It, it
But
sound
Ava
it
Ava
sounds
taught
like a
me.
lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I know it's out. It's already won several awards. Origin will be out in theaters mid-January. Did you get a chance to meet his family, Trayvon's parents or loved ones?
Not yet. I will though. They came to the show. They came to see MJ a while back. Excuse me, but I was sick. I was sick back then, so they didn't get a chance to see me. So we just missed each other by that much. But I know that they're gonna be pleased with my portrayal of Trayvon, and I can't wait to sit down and have that conversation with them. And but they were most definitely super involved with the process. I just it was just very very hard for them, so they kind of went through Ava, and Ava would let me know how they were feeling. You know, Everything would kind of be processed through her, but nonetheless, I think they're pretty satisfied with.
Miles, you've done a lot already in your career, and I know there's so much more to come. Is there
Yes.
anyone you would really like to work with?
Yes, I would have loved to work with Chadwick Boseman. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But in the spirit of him not being here, I use what he's done, his work, and not only his work but his character as a template to model after when it comes to the things I do artistically. And I think that the things that I've done so far are a great representation of that. Doing Michael
Hmm.
Jackson and then doing Trayvon Martin, back to back. I feel like I'm definitely on that path, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I think another person who's still with us is Denzel, who I can learn so much from. And I would love to work with Denzel as well at some point.
Awesome, awesome. Well, definitely, we pray your chance comes that you get to work with Denzel, and rest in peace to the good brother Chadwick Boseman, also
Mhm.
an HBCU alum from
Yes.
Howard University. He's a South Carolina native, and as you mentioned, you both have played some very weighty figures in history. From him with Jackie Robinson, James Brown, and obviously, the Black Panther being a signature role, and you having played Michael Jackson, and now Trayvon
Mhm.
Martin in the new film. So that means a lot to see that correlation there. That you would have
Mhm.
loved to have worked with him. And lastly, because this is Black Enterprise, and we like to
Mhm.
focus on business as well. As your
Yes.
career has grown as a performing artist, how has your team grown as well? Whether that's management,
Ooh.
accounting, finances, how has your
Yes.
team grown to help you manage the expansion of your career?
Right. I think it's all about feeling people out, feeling and having people on your team that align with your values and your morals and your goals and people who believe in you. You can't afford to have people on your team who don't believe in you, which is why I keep my mother close on my team and my aunt
Hmm.
close on my team, who's my stylist and, I'm my marketing director and, etc. And my mother who,
Nice.
is not only just a mother, but my business manager and, make sure she looks at all my finances. But
Hmm.
we also have to respect that we don't know what we don't know, and it's important to have people who do this for a living have their input on what you do. So I'm signed to UTA. I love UTA so much. They've done so much for me and support me in so many different ways with any endeavors I may have. My attorney is Daryl Miller, amazing, amazing attorney with Fox Rothschild, and I just got a CPA, and that's something that I feel like especially young stars, like young men, young women, young whatever your
Hmm.
gender is, you know, it's important that you get your finances together and you have a plan ahead of time and your credit. You have to plan for your future, even if you're getting those millions at 24, or
Hmm.
younger, especially my athletes out there who are getting, who are uber talented and are getting these
Yeah.
crazy contracts. It's so important that you have somebody that knows that you can trust. That's number one, who can, manage and look after and, not manage and look after your money without your eyes and your eyes on it, but who can give you a sense of direction on how to save properly, what to invest in, what not to invest in, how you can, expand your money. And I say especially the athletes because, at some point you're not gonna be able to do physically the stuff that you have been able to do. You have to
That's
plan for
right.
that. And anything can
Hmm.
happen, anything can happen to me. I could lose my voice, God forbid, but those are things that I have to plan for while I have the ability to. So it's super, 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 super important. And, I have my mom so close because I know that if everybody else fails, I know my mother has my back. I know that she's
Yeah.
not gonna ever try to do me dirty and do me wrong, and she's my mama bear for real. But she also gives me the space to be the businessman that she knows I want to be, and she respects that I have the final say in the things that I want to do. But she puts her input, and I respect her input highly. So having a team is super, super important, and I wouldn't be here without my team.
Some of these are pretty heavy, roles, like
Mm.
playing the global king of pop, as well as a young man, a child, if you will, who, as you mentioned,
Yes.
represented a lot of racial frustrations in this country, or as you mentioned, caste and class and systems of
Mhm.
oppression or standards in this country when he was also killed. How do you protect and preserve your own mental health? There's something else I thought about that you had an interview on the Today Show with Hoda and Twitch. Rest in peace to
Yes.
Stephen Boss. and you all did a really cool dance off. I was like, this is so cool to see them dancing together. And unfortunately,
Yeah,
he's not with us, and that really, shone a light again on Black men's mental health. So, how do you,
right.
Frost, protect and preserve your mental health?
Well, one of the key things for me is I recognize that within every character, regardless of how different they are from who I know myself to be, I'm always Myles Frost. When
Mm,
I'm on stage portraying Michael Jackson, as great of a job as I do, I'm still Myles Frost, meaning I don't come to the theater with my makeup on, so I don't leave the theater with my makeup on. And I
mm,
make sure that that's a clear distinction. Every child, every adult, who has met me after the show has met Myles Frost.
mm,
They have not met me in costume, none of that. I don't do that because I want people to see me because even though, Michael is a amazing entity and inspiring by himself, I want young people and young Black people to see that there's a young Black man underneath all of that makeup who pours his heart and soul into that, and I want people to be inspired by me as well. You know,
yeah.
mental health is super, super, super important, especially when we talked about balancing, all of those different things earlier. You have to allot that time for yourself. And like I said, stress management is so, so important, because the stress of it all, the stress of that mental anguish is what's killing us.
Mm-hmm.
And lack of management and not being taught how to manage. So we do different cope mechanisms, usually have to do with working, especially as Black people, like we gotta work hard, we gotta work, we gotta work, we gotta work. But taking care of your mental health is taking a step back from that work to be in touch with yourself and say,
Yeah.
hey, look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I'm still with you. We got this. I'm supporting myself. I love myself. I'm telling you, those daily affirmations go a long way, especially for
Mm,
Black men.
yeah.
And any of my Black men watching, go on YouTube and type up daily affirmations for Black men and just listen to it. Just whatever you're doing, whether you're playing video games, it doesn't matter. You on the field, whatever. Just pop an AirPod in and just listen to it and just
Mm-hmm.
let it, because those are things that we don't hear. I am a successful Black man. I'm an amazing son. I'm an amazing husband. I will be an amazing father.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of things are things that we need to hear because we absorb that,
Yeah.
and we can't absorb what we don't hear. And
Yeah.
sometimes not hearing it can turn into a negative.
Mm-hmm.
Because we say because we don't hear it, it must not be true.
Mm,
Somebody doesn't tell you that you're beautiful every so often, you're gonna say, nobody really tells me I'm beautiful. Maybe I'm not.
mm.
So it's important that you tell you that, or you surround yourself with different practices and things that remind you of that.
Love that. Yes. Surrounding yourself with positive words, affirmation, speaking over yourself, as I say, encouraging yourself. And the great Donald Lawrence has an incredible song, Speak Over Yourself, Encourage Yourself in the Lord. I absolutely love that
Yes.
song, but it is absolutely true as well about the things we speak over ourselves. Miles, as we end here today on this edition of Classes in Session, tell us, what is one of your favorite affirmations? What's some of the words that you live by every day that you wake up that you affirm over yourself?
Um, yeah, I mean, like what I said earlier, don't say no to your future self. I have to, whenever I make a decision, I have to take my future self into accountability, into account rather. I have to think about the possibilities that my future self has that my current self does not quite have the tools for yet. You know, when I got the role of MJ, if you were to put me on stage then, I would not have had the impact that I had. But I knew that I could get there, and I set a timeline for myself and said, I'm gonna work as hard as I can, but so by this time I will be ready.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you gotta push yourself, but you can't say, oh, I can't do this right now. I can't sing as well as so and so right now. So, I'm not gonna take this opportunity because I just can't do it. No. Say I might not be able to do it right now, but my future self can. So let's get there.
There it is. There it is. There it
Let's
is.
do it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Miles Frost, It's been a blessing to speak with you. Congratulations on your recent graduation from HBCU, Bowie State University. Bowie is proud of you. We're proud of you. And just wishing you all the very best in everything you continue to touch and lay your hands upon, brother. We are very proud of you. So thank you so much for joining us here on Classes in Session.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. And to everyone watching at home, be sure to share this episode. Again, you can check out all the latest and greatest digital content on Black Enterprise's social media channels, as well as blackenterprise.com. I'm your host, Ashley Stevens, and class is dismissed.